I got the police to arrest my parents for child endangerment after what they did to my younger sister. My sister Kylie was 12 when I moved out for college. I'm 19 now and she's 15. I always knew our parents were strict, but I thought it was just normal parent stuff until I came home last month for winter break. Kylie looked awful, like genuinely sick. Her hair was falling out in chunks and she had these dark circles under her eyes that made her look like she hadn't slept in weeks. When I hugged her, I could feel her ribs through her shirt. I asked her what was going on and she just shrugged and said she was fine. But that night, I heard her throwing up in the bathroom. Then I heard my mom outside the door telling her she'd better not be wasting food. That's when I started paying attention. My parents had put Kylie on this insane diet because they decided she was getting fat. She's 5'6" and they had her eating like 800 calories a day. They made her weigh herself every morning in front of them, and if she gained even half a pound, they'd take away her dinner. They installed a lock on the outside of the pantry, another one on the fridge. Kylie wasn't allowed to eat anything unless they approved it first. I found out she'd been losing hair for 3 months. She stopped getting her period. She was passing out in gym class. I tried talking to my parents about it. My dad told me to mind my own business and that they were teaching Kylie discipline. My mom said I was being dramatic and that Kylie was perfectly healthy. So I took pictures. Pictures of the locks on the pantry and fridge. Pictures of Kylie's hair in the bathroom trash. I recorded my mom weighing Kylie one morning and screaming at her for gaining a quarter pound. I saved the meal plan they'd printed out and stuck on the fridge that had her eating less than a toddler. Then I called CPS. They said they'd send someone, but it could take weeks. I didn't want to wait weeks. Kylie had already been dealing with this for months. That's when I called the police non-emergency line. I explained everything and sent them the photos and recordings. The dispatcher told me to stay calm and that someone would come check it out. 2 officers showed up 6 hours later. My parents were pissed that I'd called them. They kept saying everything was fine and that they were just trying to help Kylie be healthy. One of the officers asked to speak to Kylie alone. She came out of her room 20 minutes later crying. The officer's face was hard. He walked straight up to my dad and told him to turn around. My mom started screaming. They arrested both of them right there in the living room. The charges were child endangerment and neglect. The officer said Kylie's condition was severe enough that she needed to be seen by a doctor immediately. They called an ambulance. Kylie's at our aunt's house now. She's been eating normal meals and already looks better. The court date is coming up and I'm going to testify. My parents keep calling me from different numbers, trying to gaslight me about what really happened. I saved every message as evidence. Kylie had her first appointment with a cardiologist yesterday to check the damage from months of malnutrition. I sat in the waiting room while they ran tests, trying not to think about worst-case scenarios. After 2 hours, a nurse came out and asked me to come back to the exam room. The doctor was there with Kylie, and both their faces looked serious. He explained that Kylie's heart had developed an arrhythmia from the prolonged starvation and severe electrolyte imbalances. It was treatable but would require monitoring and possibly surgery if it didn't improve. He kept using words like permanent damage and long-term complications. Kylie was trying not to cry. Then the doctor said something that made my blood run cold. He said based on the specific type of damage he was seeing, it wasn't consistent with just restriction of food. The pattern suggested she'd also been given something, possibly diet pills or stimulants, probably for months. He asked if we knew anything about that. Kylie's face went white, and she whispered, "The vitamins Mom gave me every morning." That's when my phone rang. It was the police detective assigned to the case, and his first words were, "We need to talk about your mother's medical history right now." I stepped outside the exam room, heart hammering. Detective Brennan introduced himself properly and said they'd been doing background checks on my parents as part of the investigation. What he found sent them digging deeper. "Your mother was hospitalized twice in her 20s for complications from an eating disorder," he said. "Bulimia with severe laxative abuse. Did you know about this?" I didn't. My mom never talked about her past like that. She always acted like she'd been naturally thin her whole life. "There's more," Brennan continued. "We got a warrant for your parents' house this morning. Found a stash of diet pills, diuretics, and laxatives hidden in your mother's closet. Industrial quantities. We're testing them now, but preliminary results show some contain banned substances." My legs felt weak. I leaned against the hospital wall. "The vitamins your sister mentioned. We need to know exactly what your mother was giving her. Can you ask your sister to describe them?" I went back inside. Kylie was sitting on the exam table, picking at her fingernails. I asked her about the vitamins as gently as I could. "They were these little green capsules," she said quietly. "Mom said they were special vitamins to help me lose weight healthy. She made me take 2 every morning with water. Sometimes 3 if I'd eaten too much the day before." The cardiologist's jaw tightened. He'd been listening from his desk. "That's consistent with what I'm seeing. Those weren't vitamins." I relayed this to Detective Brennan. He was silent for a moment. Then he said they were escalating the charges. This wasn't just neglect anymore. This was deliberate poisoning. The next few hours blurred together. More police showed up to take Kylie's statement. They took photos of her body, the hair loss, the protruding bones. A forensics team was processing our parents' house. My Aunt Nora arrived at the hospital looking scared and confused. Nora pulled me aside while the police interviewed Kylie again. "Your mother called me from jail," she said, screaming about how you've ruined the family, how Kylie was getting fat and lazy, and she was just trying to help. Help? I felt rage building in my chest. She was killing her. I know. Nora's eyes were red. I should have seen it. When you kids were little, your mom had these episodes. She'd stop eating for days. Your dad would have to force her. I thought she'd gotten better. Did you know she was hospitalized? Nora nodded slowly. It was bad. Really bad. She almost died. But that was before you were born. She seemed fine after she got treatment. Got married? Had you kids? I thought it was behind her. Apparently not. Apparently she just transferred her disorder onto Kylie. That evening, back at Nora's house, I finally had a chance to look at my phone. 37 missed calls from my dad's number. Voicemails that started apologetic and ended threatening. Text messages from relatives I barely knew, demanding to know what was going on. My mom's sister, Carol, sent a long message about how I was tearing the family apart over normal parenting. How kids these days are too sensitive. How my mother was just trying to prevent Kylie from becoming obese. I blocked her number. Kylie came and sat next to me on Nora's couch. She was wearing borrowed clothes that actually fit properly. She still looked skeletal, but there was more color in her face than I'd seen in weeks. Are you okay? She asked me. That question broke something in me. She was asking if I was okay. I should be asking you that. I'm scared, she admitted, but also relieved? Does that make sense? It did. We sat there in silence for a while. Nora brought us hot chocolate, real hot chocolate with whipped cream, and Kylie drank it without hesitation, without calculating calories or asking permission. Small victories. The next morning, Detective Brennan called again. The lab results were back on the pills. They contained a cocktail of banned stimulants, diuretics, and something called DNP that I had to Google. What I read made me physically ill. DNP is used in pesticides. It's toxic. It literally kills people trying to lose weight because it raises your body temperature to dangerous levels, and there's no antidote if you overdose. Your mother was giving your sister poison, Brennan said flatly. We've upgraded the charges to aggravated child abuse and reckless endangerment. The DA is considering attempted manslaughter. What about my dad? I asked. Did he know? 8. We're investigating that. He claims he had no idea what your mother was giving Kylie, that he thought they were just vitamins. But he admitted to enforcing the diet and the locks on the food. He's complicit at minimum. My dad had always been the enforcer in our house, the one who delivered punishments. My mom planned them. He carried them out. Looking back, that dynamic was fucked up in ways I hadn't recognized as a kid. Brennan told me they wanted me to come down to the station to give a formal statement. I went that afternoon with Nora. The station was busy, phones ringing, officers moving between desks. They put me in a small interview room with a camera in the corner and a recording device on the table. I told them everything. Every detail I'd noticed during winter break. The locks, the weighing, the meal plans, the way my mom watched Kylie eat like a hawk, how she'd make comments about Kylie's body constantly, pinching her arms and thighs, talking about how she was developing bad fat distribution. When did this start? Brennan asked. I had to think back. Maybe last spring? I came home for spring break and Kylie seemed normal. But over the summer when I visited, my mom kept making comments about Kylie eating too much junk food. I thought it was typical mom stuff. By Thanksgiving, Kylie had lost weight and my mom seemed pleased about it. Did Kylie ever complain to you? Not directly. She'd make jokes about how strict the food rules were getting, but she played it off like it wasn't a big deal. I think she was embarrassed. Brennan nodded, taking notes. Did your father participate in the comments about Kylie's weight? He agreed with my mom, said Kylie needed discipline, that she was getting soft. I felt sick remembering. He's the one who installed the locks. After the interview, Brennan walked me out. You did the right thing, he said. A lot of people would have looked the other way, called it family business. She's my sister. Still, it took courage. I didn't feel courageous. I felt exhausted and angry and scared about what came next. The court hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. In the meantime, Kylie started therapy 3 times a week with a specialist in eating disorders. She also began working with a nutritionist to restore her weight safely. Apparently, you can't just start eating normally after prolonged starvation. Your body can go into shock, something called refeeding syndrome that can be fatal. More things they didn't tell you about until you're living through it. Kylie's appetite was weird. Some days she was ravenous, other days she couldn't eat more than a few bites without feeling sick. The nutritionist said this was normal, that her body was confused about hunger signals after months of being overridden. I went back to my college town to pack up more of my stuff. I'd basically moved out of my dorm to stay with Kylie and Nora. My roommate was understanding, but I could tell he was uncomfortable with the drama. People started treating me differently once word got around about what happened. Some were supportive. Others acted like I'd done something wrong by calling the cops on my own parents. My girlfriend Bailey broke up with me during this time, said it was too much stress, that she couldn't handle the heaviness of the situation. I didn't fight it. She wasn't wrong. I was barely holding myself together. The day before the hearing, my dad's lawyer contacted me. He wanted to meet, said my dad wanted to talk to me directly. I agreed to meet in a public place, a coffee shop downtown, with Nora present. My dad showed up looking like he'd aged 10 years. His hair was grayer, his face drawn. He'd lost weight too, probably from jail food and stress. He sat down across from me without ordering anything. You destroyed this family, were his first words. I just looked at him. I saved Kylie's life. Your mother was trying to help her. Kylie was getting heavy, heading toward obesity. We were preventing a lifetime of health problems. She was a normal weight, I said quietly, trying to keep my anger in check. And now she has heart damage that might be permanent. That's not our fault. The doctors are exaggerating. Nora cut in. The doctors found poison in her system, Nathan. Your wife was poisoning her. My dad's face flushed. Those were supplements. Safe supplements that your mother researched extensively. DNP is a pesticide, I said. It's killed people. It's banned in most countries. Your mother knew what she was doing. She had it all calculated out. Low doses, carefully monitored. The delusion was staggering. He genuinely believed they'd been helping. Kylie was dying, I said. Her hair was falling out. She was passing out. That's because she wasn't following the plan correctly, my dad snapped. If she'd just listened, if she'd taken it seriously, none of this would have happened. I stood up. This was pointless. I'll see you in court. Wait, he grabbed my arm. I shook him off. Please, just tell them it was a misunderstanding. Tell them we made a mistake, but we were trying to help. I can't go to prison. Your mother can't go to prison. Think about what this will do to our reputation, to our family. Kylie is our family, and you almost killed her. I left him sitting there. Nora followed me out. In the parking lot, I finally broke down. Just stood there crying while Nora hugged me. All the stress and fear and rage I'd been holding back came pouring out. The next day, the courtroom was packed. Relatives on both sides, neighbors, even some of Kylie's teachers from school. My mom's lawyer had clearly been working overtime because half the people there seemed primed to defend her. Kylie sat between me and Nora, wearing a dress Nora had bought her that actually fit. She looked terrified. I held her hand. The judge was a stern-looking woman in her 60s named Judge Patricia Vega. She had a reputation for being tough but fair. Both my parents were brought in wearing jail jumpsuits, sitting at separate tables with their lawyers. My mom wouldn't look at me. My dad stared straight ahead, jaw clenched. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Lisa Chen, laid out the case methodically. Medical reports documenting Kylie's condition. Lab results showing the toxic substances in the pills. Photos of the locks on the food storage. Testimony from Kylie's teachers about her physical decline. The school nurse testified that she'd filed 2 reports with CPS about Kylie fainting, but somehow they'd been closed without investigation. That revelation caused an uproar. Judge Vega demanded to know why CPS had failed to follow up. A CPS representative admitted there had been a backlog, and Kylie's case had been flagged as low priority since our family had no prior history. Then it was the defense's turn. My mom's lawyer tried to paint her as a concerned mother who'd struggled with her own eating disorder and was trying to prevent her daughter from going down the same path. They brought in a psychiatrist who testified about how eating disorders can create distorted thinking and impaired judgment. My mom took the stand. She cried, talking about how terrified she'd been watching Kylie gain weight, how she'd seen herself in Kylie and couldn't bear the thought of her daughter suffering the way she had, how the dieting had spiraled out of control, but she genuinely believed she was helping. It was a compelling performance. I saw some people in the gallery nodding sympathetically. Then Lisa Chen cross-examined her. Mrs. Mitchell, you testified that you were trying to prevent your daughter from developing an eating disorder. Is that correct? Yes. By putting her on an 800-calorie diet, it wasn't always that low. Medical records show your daughter lost 30 pounds in 4 months. That's an average of almost 2 pounds per week. Did that concern you? Sis. She was heavy to begin with. Her BMI at the start of your diet regimen was well within normal range. Now it's severely underweight. My mom didn't answer. Mrs. Mitchell, did you know that DNP, one of the substances found in the pills you gave your daughter, is banned by the FDA and has killed dozens of people? I researched it thoroughly. The doses were safe. There's no safe dose of DNP for human consumption. That's why it's banned. I was careful. Your daughter's cardiologist testified that she's developed an arrhythmia that may require surgery to correct. She's lost 40% of her hair. She hasn't menstruated in 6 months. Does that sound like the result of careful monitoring? My mom's composure cracked. I never meant for any of that to happen. I was trying to help her. Help her by poisoning her? Objection. My mom's lawyer called out. Argumentative. Sustained. Judge Vega said. But the point had been made. My dad's testimony was shorter. He maintained he hadn't known about the pills, that he'd thought they were just vitamins. He admitted to enforcing the diet and installing the locks, but said he'd been following my mother's instructions, that she'd convinced him it was medically necessary. Did you ever take your daughter to a doctor during this period? Lisa Chen asked him. No. Her mother handles the medical stuff. Even when she was fainting at school? When her hair was falling out? I thought it was stress from school. Did you ask her about it? I told her she needed to toughen up. The courtroom was silent. My dad seemed to realize how that sounded. He tried to backtrack, saying he'd been worried but trusted my mother's judgment. Nobody was buying it. Then it was Kylie's turn to testify. I'd been dreading this. She was so fragile still, physically and emotionally. Nora had wanted to spare her from having to testify, but the prosecutor said her statement was crucial. Kylie walked to the witness stand slowly. She'd gained maybe 5 pounds since leaving our parents' house, but she still looked painfully thin. The judge asked if she needed breaks, and Kylie said she'd be okay. Lisa Chen was gentle with her questioning. Kylie described the diet, the weighings, the punishments if she gained weight. She talked about how hungry she'd been all the time, how she'd sneak food from the school cafeteria and hide it in her backpack to eat in her room at night, how her mom had found the wrappers once and made her run on the treadmill for 2 hours as punishment. "Did you ever tell anyone what was happening?" Lisa asked. "I told my school counselor I was tired all the time. She suggested I eat more protein. I told her my parents were strict about food and she said all parents are different." "Did you tell your brother?" "Not really. I was embarrassed. And I thought maybe my parents were right that I was fat and needed to lose weight." "Do you believe that now?" Kylie shook her head. "No. Now I know I wasn't fat. I look at pictures from before and I looked normal. I don't know why I couldn't see it then." "Can you tell the court about the pills your mother gave you?" Kylie described the green capsules, how they made her feel jittery and hot, how she'd have heart palpitations and trouble sleeping, how, when she'd complained to her mother, her mom had said those were just signs the pills were working. "Did you want to take these pills?" "No. But my mom said I had to if I wanted to be healthy and pretty. She said all the women in our family struggle with weight and I needed to learn discipline young." Lisa let that hang in the air. Then she asked, "What do you want to happen now?" Kylie looked at our parents for the first time. My mom was crying silently. My dad's face was stone. "I don't want to live with them anymore," Kylie said quietly. "I'm scared of them." The defense attorneys tried to rehabilitate things during cross-examination, but Kylie held firm. She answered their questions in a steady voice, never wavering from her account. My mom's lawyer tried to suggest that Kylie was being coached by me and Nora, but Kylie shut that down immediately. "Nobody told me what to say," she said. "This is what happened. This is what they did to me." After testimony concluded, Judge Vega called for a recess before delivering her ruling. We waited in a conference room, Kylie leaning against me, exhausted. Nora brought her juice and crackers. She ate 2 crackers and fell asleep with her head on my shoulder. When we returned to the courtroom, Judge Vega looked grim. She spent 10 minutes reviewing the evidence and the testimony. Then she addressed my parents directly. "I've presided over many child welfare cases in my career," she said. "Abuse comes in many forms. Sometimes it's the result of ignorance or poverty. Sometimes it's deliberate cruelty. What I see here is something particularly disturbing. 2 educated adults who systematically tortured their child under the guise of helping her." My mom started crying harder. My dad's jaw muscle twitched. "Mrs. Mitchell, your own struggles with eating disorders do not excuse what you did to your daughter. If anything, they make your actions more inexcusable because you knew exactly what you were inflicting on her. You experienced it yourself. And yet you chose to subject your child to that suffering, and worse." Judge Vega turned to my dad. "Mr. Mitchell, your claim of ignorance strains credibility. You saw your daughter deteriorating. You heard her vomiting. You witnessed her hair falling out. And your response was to tell her to toughen up. That's not ignorance. That's willful neglect." She paused, looking at papers in front of her. "I'm finding both of you guilty of aggravated child abuse and reckless endangerment. I'm sentencing you both to 5 years in state prison, with the possibility of parole after 3 years pending completion of court-mandated therapy and parenting classes." Gasps from the gallery. My mom collapsed in her chair. My dad's face went red. "Furthermore, I'm terminating your parental rights pending a review in 18 months. Kylie Mitchell will remain in the custody of her aunt, Nora Henderson, and her brother will retain legal guardianship rights. You will have no contact with Kylie during your incarceration unless she specifically requests it and it's approved by her therapist." Judge Vega looked at Kylie. "You're a brave young woman. I hope you get the help you need to recover from this ordeal." Then it was over. Bailiffs led my parents away. My dad was shouting something about appeals. My mom was sobbing. Relatives were crying and arguing. Kylie just sat there, staring at her hands. "Is it really over?" she asked me quietly. "Yeah, it's over." We left through a side door to avoid the crowd. Media had caught wind of the case, and there were news vans outside the courthouse. A reporter shoved a microphone at us, but Nora pushed them away, saying Kylie was a minor and off limits. That night, back at Nora's house, we ordered pizza. Kylie ate 3 slices without commenting on calories or asking permission. Then she went to her room and closed the door. I heard her crying and started to go to her, but Nora stopped me. "Let her process," Nora said gently. "She needs to feel whatever she's feeling without someone trying to fix it." So I sat on the couch and felt my own feelings. Relief that it was over. Anger at my parents. Guilt that I hadn't seen what was happening sooner. Fear about what came next. The next few months were about establishing a new normal. Kylie continued therapy and nutritional counseling. Her weight slowly increased. Her hair started growing back, though it came in patchy at first. The cardiologist said her arrhythmia was improving with medication and she might not need surgery after all. School was hard for Kylie. Word had gotten around about what happened and some kids were cruel about it. She came home crying more than once because someone had made a comment about her eating or her appearance. We ended up transferring her to a different school district where nobody knew her history. My relationship with extended family fractured. My mom's side mostly blamed me for sending their sister to prison. My dad's side was split. Some understood what I'd done. Others thought I should have handled it privately. Family gatherings became impossible to navigate, so we stopped going. Kylie started gaining confidence back slowly. She joined the art club at her new school, made a few friends who didn't know about her past, started smiling more. She still had hard days, Days where she'd struggle to eat or get trapped in negative thoughts about her body, but they became less frequent. 6 months after the sentencing, my mom sent a letter through her lawyer requesting to speak with Kylie. Kylie's therapist reviewed the letter and said it was up to Kylie. Kylie thought about it for a week, then said no. Maybe someday, she told me. But not yet. I'm not ready. I supported that decision completely. So did Nora. I ended up taking a semester off from college to help Kylie adjust. Money was tight since we were living off Nora's income and my part-time job, but we made it work. I applied for legal guardianship and it was granted. This meant I could make medical and educational decisions for Kylie without needing Nora as an intermediary, though Nora remained her primary caregiver. Life developed a rhythm. School, therapy, work, homework, dinner together, repeat. Simple and stable. Kylie needed simple and stable. One evening, about 8 months after the trial, Kylie and I were washing dishes together. She was drying while I washed. She'd been quiet all day, which usually meant she was processing something. "Can I ask you something?" she said finally. "Always. Do you think they really believed they were helping me?" I thought about that. I think Mom believed it in her own twisted way. She has a disease, and it broke her brain. But Dad? I think Dad just went along with it because it was easier than standing up to Mom. Do you ever miss them? Sometimes I miss who I thought they were, but that version of them maybe never existed. Kylie nodded slowly. I keep having this dream, where I'm back in that house and the locks are on the food again. And I'm so hungry, but I can't eat. And I wake up scared it's all still happening. But it's not. You're safe now. I know. My therapist says the dreams will fade eventually. It just sucks waiting for eventually. We finished the dishes in silence. Then Kylie hugged me, something she rarely did. She was still uncomfortable with physical touch, a lingering effect of my parents' constant criticism of her body. "Thank you for calling the cops," she said into my shoulder. "I know it was hard. You don't have to thank me for that." "Yes, I do. You saved my life." A year after the sentencing, Kylie had gained back most of the weight she'd lost, though she'd never be the exact same weight as before because her body had changed during puberty. Her hair had grown back fully. The dark circles under her eyes were gone. She smiled more, laughed more. She was playing soccer again, something she'd loved before my parents' diet regime started. Her cardiologist said the arrhythmia was completely resolved. No surgery needed. Her heart was healing. I went back to college and finished my degree. Kylie stayed with Nora during the week and visited me on weekends sometimes. We'd built a life that worked. My parents came up for parole after 3 years. My mom's request was denied because she'd failed to complete the mandated therapy program. She'd attended the sessions, but her therapist reported she showed no genuine understanding of what she'd done wrong. She still maintained she'd been helping Kylie. My dad's parole was granted on the condition he have no contact with Kylie and continue therapy. He was released and moved to a different state. I haven't spoken to him since the trial. Kylie turned 18 last month. She's applying to colleges. She wants to study psychology. Says she wants to help other kids going through what she went through. She's still in therapy, but less frequently now. She has a boyfriend who treats her well. She's building a life. Last week, she asked if I wanted to go with her to visit Mom in prison. The request surprised me. "You sure you're ready for that?" I asked. "I don't know if I'll ever be ready, but my therapist thinks it might help with closure. I'm not going to forgive her or anything. I just want to see her and know that I survived despite what she did. I'll go with you if you want." I want. So next month, we're driving upstate to the women's correctional facility. I don't know what Kylie will say to our mother. I don't know what our mother will say to her. But Kylie gets to decide how this next chapter goes, and I'm just there to support whatever she needs. Some people have asked me if I regret calling the police, if there was a better way to handle it. The answer is no. Kylie was dying. My parents were killing her. Every day I waited was another day she suffered. Was it hard turning in my own parents? Absolutely. Do I feel guilty that they're in prison? Sometimes. But then I look at Kylie, healthy and strong and laughing with her friends, and I know I made the right choice. You can't let loyalty to family trump protecting someone who's being hurt, even if the people doing the hurting are the ones who raised you. That's the line I had to draw. And I'd draw it again. Update 1. The prison visit with our mom happened 2 weeks ago. I need to write this down while it's still fresh, because what we learned changed everything. I thought I understood about what happened to Kylie. We drove 3 hours upstate to the correctional facility. Kylie was quiet the whole drive, picking at her fingernails, a nervous habit she'd developed. I'd offered multiple times to turn around if she changed her mind, but she kept saying she needed to do this. The prison was exactly like you see in movies. Gray, concrete, razor wire, guards everywhere. We had to go through security, empty our pockets, get wanded down. They took our phones. Kylie's hands were shaking as we walked through the metal detector. A guard led us to the visitation room, a depressing space with plastic tables and chairs bolted to the floor. Other families were scattered around, talking in low voices. Everyone looked tired. Then Mom walked in. I barely recognized her. She'd aged dramatically. Her hair was completely gray now and cut short. She'd gained weight, probably from the prison food and lack of her own diet pills. She looked like somebody's grandmother, not the woman who'd systematically poisoned her daughter. Kylie went rigid next to me. I could feel her breathing speed up. Mom saw us and her face crumpled. She started walking faster toward our table, but a guard told her to slow down. She sat across from us, hands clasped on the table. There were actual tears running down her face. Kylie, oh my baby, you look so healthy. Your hair grew back. You're so beautiful. Kylie didn't respond, just stared at her. Thank you for coming, Mom continued. I've wanted to see you for so long. I've missed you so much. I didn't come here for a reunion, Kylie said quietly. I came here for answers. Mom nodded quickly. Anything. I'll tell you anything you want to know. Why did you do it? Kylie asked. And don't tell me you were trying to help. I want the real reason. Mom was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, because I was terrified you'd turn out like me. Explain that. When I was 16, I was overweight. Not massively, but enough that kids at school bullied me, called me names. I developed bulimia, trying to lose weight. By the time I was 20, I destroyed my esophagus, my teeth, my heart. I almost died multiple times. It took years of treatment, and I still struggle every single day. So you decided to give me an eating disorder on purpose? Kylie's voice was sharp. No, I was trying to prevent one. I thought if I controlled your weight from the start, taught you discipline early, you wouldn't go through what I went through. I thought I was stopping the problem before it started. By starving me? I know how it sounds now, but in my head, it made sense. I was monitoring your calories, making sure you were losing weight in a controlled way, not binging and purging like I did. I thought I was being smart about it. I'd stayed quiet until now, but I couldn't hold back anymore. You were giving her poison, Mom. DNP. You almost killed her. Mom's face twisted. I researched those pills for months. I calculated the doses precisely. I monitored her constantly. It was supposed to be safe. There's no safe dose of DNP, I said. The doctors testified to that. I know that now. But at the time, all the bodybuilding forums said it worked if you were careful. I thought I was being careful. Bodybuilding forums. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You got your medical advice from internet forums? I couldn't ask a real doctor. They wouldn't have prescribed what I needed. I had to figure it out myself. Kylie leaned forward. Did Dad know? About the pills? Mom hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. He knew I was giving you supplements. He didn't know exactly what was in them, but he knew they weren't just vitamins. Another pause. He knew they were diet aids. He trusted me to know what I was doing. So he did know, Kylie said flatly. He lied in court. He was trying to protect himself. And me. He thought if he claimed ignorance, maybe he'd get a lighter sentence and could be there for you. He wasn't there for me when it mattered, Kylie said. Neither of you were. Mom started crying harder. I'm so sorry. I know that doesn't mean anything now, but I am. I was sick. I am sick. The therapist here says I have a severe eating disorder with delusional features, that my thinking was completely distorted, but that doesn't excuse what I did to you. This was the first time I'd heard Mom actually take responsibility without immediately justifying it. The therapy was working, apparently, just 3 years too late. The nutritionist at the hospital said I might never have normal hunger cues again, Kylie said, that you messed up my metabolism permanently. I have to consciously remind myself to eat because my body doesn't tell me when I'm hungry anymore. I didn't know that would happen. You didn't care enough to find out. You just wanted a thin daughter. I wanted a daughter who wouldn't suffer like I did. Well, congratulations, Mom. I suffered in a completely different way instead. The visit was supposed to last an hour, but Kylie stood up after 30 minutes. I'm done. I got what I came for. Wait, please. Mom reached across the table but stopped before touching Kylie. Will you come back? Can we talk again? I don't know. Maybe. But I need you to understand something. I didn't come here to forgive you. I came here to see that you're really locked up, to prove to myself that you can't hurt me anymore. And now I know. We walked out. Mom called Kylie's name, but we didn't turn around. In the car, Kylie burst into tears. Not sad crying, angry crying. She punched the dashboard and yelled every curse word she knew. I let her rage. When she finally calmed down, she looked at me. She really believed it, didn't she? She really thought she was helping. Mental illness doesn't make it okay. I know. But it's almost scarier that she believed it. Like, how do you protect yourself from someone who hurts you and thinks they're saving you? I didn't have an answer to that. On the drive home, Kylie's phone buzzed. She'd gotten it back from prison security. She checked it and her face went pale. What's wrong? It's from Dad's number. He wants to meet. You don't have to respond. He says it's urgent. About Mom. What about her? Kylie showed me the text. She's not telling you everything. We need to talk. There's something you need to know about your birth. My birth? Kylie looked confused. What does that mean? Probably just him trying to manipulate you. Don't engage. But Kylie was already texting back, asking what he meant. 3 dots appeared immediately. Then a message that made my blood run cold. Your mother didn't develop her eating disorder until after you were born. Because of how you were born. I'll explain in person. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., Riverside Diner. Come alone. Kylie read it twice. I have to go. No way. This is obviously a trap or manipulation. What if he's telling the truth? What if there's more to this? Then he can tell both of us. I'm not letting you meet him alone. We argued about it for the rest of the drive. Kylie wanted answers. I wanted to protect her from more psychological damage. We compromised. We'd both go to the diner, but I'd sit at a different table where I could see and hear them. The next day, Riverside Diner was nearly empty at 2 p.m., the dead zone between lunch and dinner. Dad was already sitting in a booth when we arrived. He looked better than Mom. Like prison had actually been easier on him. He'd lost weight and seemed healthier somehow. His face hardened when he saw me. I said alone, "She's a minor. I'm her legal guardian. If you want to talk to her, I'm here." He considered this, then nodded. "Fine. Sit somewhere else." I took a booth 3 down from theirs, angled so I could watch them. A waitress came over and I ordered coffee. I didn't want just to justify sitting there. Dad ordered nothing. He just looked at Kylie for a long moment. "You look good. Healthy. What do you want to tell me?" Kylie cut to the point. Dad glanced at me, then back to Kylie. "Your mother's eating disorder. It didn't just come back because she was worried about you. It came back because of the guilt she's carried since you were born." "Guilt about what?" "You weren't supposed to happen. We decided after your brother that we were done having kids. Your mother had gotten her body back, was feeling good about herself. Then she got pregnant with you." Kylie's face showed she didn't understand the significance. Lots of pregnancies are surprises. She wanted an abortion. The words hung in the air. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Kylie just stared at him. She was terrified of gaining weight again, of going through pregnancy again. But I convinced her we should have you. Told her it was meant to be. Promised I'd support her. Dad's voice was hollow. She gained 60 pounds during the pregnancy. Developed gestational diabetes. Had to be on bed rest for 3 months. It was hard on her, physically and mentally. "So this is my fault?" Kylie's voice was small. "No. Listen, after you were born, she developed severe postpartum depression. But mixed in with that was this obsessive fear that you'd inherit her problems. Her tendency toward weight gain, her eating disorder. She'd look at you as a baby and see her future ruined life staring back at her. That's insane." "Yes, it is. But depression and obsession aren't rational. She got therapy for the postpartum part, but she never dealt with the deeper issues. And as you got older and started looking more like her, the obsession got worse." I got up and moved to their booth, sliding in next to Kylie. Dad looked annoyed but didn't stop me. "Why are you telling her this?" I demanded. "What's the point?" "Because she deserves to know the truth. Your mother didn't just wake up one day and decide to torture Kylie. It was years of untreated mental illness and guilt and fear building up. When Kylie hit puberty and started developing, it triggered something in your mother. She saw herself in Kylie and she panicked. So she decided to starve her. She decided to prevent what she saw as inevitable. In her mind, she was stopping Kylie from becoming her, from suffering like she had." Kylie was crying silently. "Did she ever actually want me?" "Yes. Eventually, once you were here, she loved you. But that love got twisted up with her fear and guilt. And I didn't stop it because I felt guilty too. I was the one who pushed for her to have you in the first place. I felt responsible. So you both just collectively decided to abuse me because you felt bad about yourselves?" Kylie's voice was getting louder. Other diners were starting to look over. "I'm not making excuses. What we did was unforgivable. But I thought you deserved to know why. To understand that it wasn't about you being wrong or bad, it was about us being sick. That doesn't make it better," I said. "I know. Nothing makes it better." We sat in awful silence. The waitress came over to refill my coffee and quickly retreated, sensing the tension. "There's one more thing," Dad said. "Your mother's been sending me letters from prison. She's gotten worse, not better. She's fixated on this idea that if she could just try again, if she could just see Kylie more, she could fix her mistakes, make it right. She can't see Kylie. The court order is clear. I know. But she's convinced her lawyer to file a motion to modify the order. She wants supervised visits. She might get them." "No." Kylie's voice was firm. "Absolutely not. You might not have a choice. If her therapist says she's made progress, if she completes the treatment program, a judge might allow limited contact. Then I'll tell the judge no. I'm almost 18. My opinion matters." "It does. But legally, until you're 18, decisions can still be made for you." I felt rage building. "Are you threatening us?" "I'm warning you. Your mother has 5 months until her next parole hearing. She's going to push for contact with Kylie as part of her rehabilitation. I wanted you to be prepared." "Why are you telling us this?" "I thought you'd be on her side." Dad's face was bitter. "I've had 3 years to think about what happened, to really think about it, without your mother in my ear. The truth is, I was weak. I let her drive the decisions about how we raised you kids because it was easier than fighting her, and I destroyed my relationship with both of you because of it. You could have stopped it at any time," I said. "You saw what was happening to Kylie." "I know, I was a coward, and now I've lost everything." Kylie stood up. "I need to leave." We walked out, leaving Dad sitting alone in the booth. In the parking lot, Kylie threw up in the bushes. Stress vomit. Not the kind my mom used to force. I held her hair back and rubbed her back until she stopped. "I can't do this anymore," she said between heaves. "I can't keep dealing with them." "You don't have to. We'll fight the motion. We'll make sure the judge knows you don't want contact." "But what if they make me? What if I have to see her? Then I'll be there every single second. And the minute you turn 18, you never have to see either of them again if you don't want to." We drove home in silence. That night, I called our lawyer, the same Joan who'd helped me initially. She listened to everything Dad had said and made notes. He's right that she can file a motion to modify, Joan said. But given the severity of the abuse and Kylie's age, the judge will heavily weight her preference. We'll need to prepare a statement from Kylie's therapist and possibly have Kylie speak to the judge directly. She shouldn't have to go through that. I know. But unfortunately, your mother has parental rights, even from prison. Those weren't permanently terminated, just suspended. If she can show rehabilitation, the law does allow for supervised contact. This was a nightmare. We'd thought it was over, that we'd won. But apparently, you never fully escape your parents, even when they're in prison. Kylie spent the next week barely eating, stressed about the possibility of having to see our mother again. Her therapist increased their session frequency. I took more time off work to be with her. Then something happened that changed everything. I got a call from Detective Brennan, who I hadn't heard from since the trial. He asked if I could come down to the station, said he had new information about our case. I went the next day. Brennan looked tired, like he hadn't slept well. He led me to an interview room and closed the door. We've been investigating other cases, he said, looking for patterns of parental abuse involving eating disorders and diet pills. We found something related to your mother. What kind of something? A support group she was part of online, for mothers concerned about their daughter's weight. Turns out it wasn't a support group. It was a pro-Anna community, masquerading as concerned parenting. Pro-Anna. I'd heard the term but never really understood it. Websites and groups that promote anorexia as a lifestyle choice rather than an illness. Your mother was active in this community for over 2 years, Brennan continued. She wasn't just sharing diet tips. She was sharing photos of Kylie, her weight loss progress, asking for advice on how to get Kylie to lose more weight faster, and the community was encouraging her. He showed me printouts, screenshots of forum posts in my mother's username, photos of Kylie that I recognized, comments from other users praising my mom's dedication, suggesting increasingly extreme diet methods. One post from my mother said, "Day 87 of modified fast. Daughter down 18 pounds. Some hair loss, but worth it for the progress. Using DNP at 200 milligrams daily. She's resistant, but I'm holding firm." The responses were all encouraging, telling her to stay strong, saying Kylie would thank her someday, sharing their own stories of putting their daughters on extreme diets. I felt sick. How many people were in this group? Over 300 members. We're working with FBI Cybercrime Division to identify them. Several are under investigation for child abuse in their own states. Does Mom know you found this? Not yet. We wanted to talk to you first. This changes things for her case. She wasn't acting alone in a bubble of mental illness. She was part of a community actively encouraging the abuse. That's going to affect her parole hearing. Good. There's more. We found messages between your mother and another member of the group. They were planning to write a book together about their diet methods. They'd recruited a literary agent and everything. They were going to monetize this. My mother was going to write a book about how to starve your children. I couldn't process it. The DA is considering additional charges. Conspiracy to commit child abuse. Possibly child endangerment charges in other states if we can prove her advice directly led to harm. She's looking at more time, not less. What about the motion for visitation with Kylie? I'll make sure the judge sees all of this. There's no way any judge would allow contact after seeing this evidence. I drove home in a daze. That evening, I sat Kylie down and told her everything. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she just said, "I want to see the posts." Kylie, I don't think that's a good idea. I need to know what she said about me. I need to know what they all said. Against my better judgment, I showed her the printouts Brennan had given me. Kylie read each one carefully. Her face got paler with each page. When she finished, she looked up at me. She was proud of it. She was showing off how much weight she made me lose. Like I was a project. "I'm so sorry. There are photos of me in my underwear. When did she even take these? Was she sneaking into my room while I was changing?" I hadn't noticed that detail. Looking closer at the photos, I recognized Kylie's bedroom in the background. My mother had been documenting Kylie's body without her knowledge. "This is so much worse than I thought," Kylie said quietly. "I thought she was sick and made bad choices. But this was planned. This was intentional. She was part of a whole community doing this to their kids." She was right. This wasn't just one mentally ill mother acting on distorted thinking. This was organized abuse with social support. The motion for visitation was denied before it even went to a hearing. The judge reviewed the new evidence and immediately ruled that our mother posed a continuing threat to Kylie's well-being. The court order was modified to prohibit any contact, even supervised, until Kylie turned 18 and could make her own choice. Mom's parole hearing was postponed while the DA considered new charges. Dad sent me a text saying Mom was devastated, that she'd been counting on seeing Kylie. I blocked his number. The FBI investigation expanded. More members of the online community were identified and investigated. 3 were arrested for child abuse. Several others had their children removed by CPS. The website was shut down. My mother's story made national news when the investigation went public. "Mother poisoned daughter after online group encouraged extreme dieting," was the headline. Our names were protected because Kylie was a minor, but people in our town figured it out. Kylie had to deal with being the subject of whispers and stares again, but this time it was different. This time, people knew the full truth of what had happened. Teachers were more understanding. Friends' parents reached out to offer support. The community rallied around us instead of judging us. Kylie turned 18 3 months later. On her birthday, she legally changed her last name. She didn't want to be a Mitchell anymore. She chose Henderson, Nora's last name. Nora cried when Kylie told her. "You don't have to do that," Nora said. "I want to. You're more of a parent to me than they ever were." I kept my name, not because I had any loyalty to our parents, but because changing it felt like letting them take more from me than they already had. My name is mine, regardless of who gave it to me. The next chapter came a year later when both parents came up for parole again. Dad was released after 4 years. He moved across the country, and I haven't heard from him since, except for one email saying he was sorry and understood if I never wanted to speak to him again. I didn't respond. Mom's parole was denied. The new evidence about the online community and the planned book convinced the board she was unrehabilitated and dangerous. She was given a new sentence of an additional 3 years. Kylie didn't react when I told her, just nodded and went back to studying. She was in her first year at a college 3 hours away, studying psychology like she'd planned. She was thriving. I graduated and got a job in social services, working with families in crisis. The irony wasn't lost on me that I was now helping other people navigate the kind of situation I'd had to report my own parents for. Sometimes people asked if I'd done the right thing, calling the cops instead of trying to handle it privately. The question always confused me. How do you handle systematic poisoning privately? How do you fix parents who are part of a community encouraging them to abuse their children? You can't. You call the authorities and you protect the victim. It's that simple and that complicated. Kylie's doing well now. She still has bad days where the trauma catches up to her, but they're fewer and further between. She has a therapist she trusts, friends who support her, and a future she's building for herself. Last month, she called me crying, but happy crying this time. She'd been accepted into a graduate program specializing in eating disorder treatment. She was going to help other kids like herself. "I'm proud of you," I told her. "I couldn't have gotten here without you. You saved me. You saved yourself. I just called the right people." That's more than most people would have done. Maybe, but it was also the bare minimum of what she deserved. Our family is small now. Me, Kylie, Nora, and a handful of relatives who didn't abandon us when everything fell apart. It's smaller, but it's healthier. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't come home for winter break that year, if I hadn't noticed how sick Kylie was, if I just assumed everything was fine and gone back to my college life. I don't wonder for long because the answer is clear. Kylie would be dead. That's not an exaggeration or dramatic speculation. The cardiologist said she was maybe 2 months away from cardiac failure when I called the police. Her body was shutting down. The poison my mother was giving her was accumulating to lethal levels. 2 more months and I would have come home for spring break to plan a funeral instead of staging an intervention. So no, I don't regret calling the cops. I don't regret testifying against my parents. I don't regret doing what had to be done to save my sister's life. And I hope anyone reading this who's in a similar situation finds the courage to do the same. Family loyalty is important, but it doesn't trump basic human decency. It doesn't give anyone the right to hurt someone else, especially a child who can't protect themselves. If you see abuse happening, report it, even if it's your own family. Especially if it's your own family. Because at the end of the day, protecting the vulnerable is more important than protecting someone's reputation or keeping family secrets. Kylie's alive today because I made that choice, and that's a decision I'll never regret.